All right. What's going on, ladies, gentlemen, fellas? Yeah, we're going to do some lineup building through the optimizer for this MMA event that continues every single day. To lose some fights, lose a fighter, then you lose a fight because somebody's fainting, then you lose a fight because of COVID today. We still can't get this thing on the wraps after a whole year. What's we doing? What you doing, people? Yeah. Who's the sound guy talking about MMA? Yeah. We're going to be talking some leverage spots. We're going to be talking some lineup building for what is now down to not that many people. Somebody says, can you look at some prize picks for MMA? Yeah, there's prize picks for MMA. Yeah, we can talk about it. Yeah, what's going on, Finesse God, in the chat right now? We can talk about that in a second. More so kind of want to discuss through some lineup building for what this slate looks like really from a leverage standpoint, because now with less fighters on the slate, some obvious standout spots. If you're looking at this slate right now from a lineup construction projection standpoint, we can talk about some potential spots to build some lineups. So this is the optimizer, the big energy optimizer. So let's look at some spots where we can maybe get some leverage opportunities. So now you don't have no more of this Gillespie's fight, Brad Riddle. So yeah, this is not going to be as good of a card in terms of excitement. But so what we're going to do here, and what I'm trying to do is finding these leverage spots. So if you want to look at it from a projection standpoint and just how this slate is kind of lining up right now, we can slide over here and yes, Montel Jackson at the top. Yes, whoever wins between Holland and Brunson. Right now, Holland's going to be grading out as a better play all around, as the favorite in this one. If you're just talking about how it can get done earlier and a quicker finish, you'll probably be taking that side of it as well. Travis says, hot damn, right on time. What's up, Sal? What's going on, Travis? How you doing? Yeah, so some people might not know that I'm actually very much in the realm of the MMA space. In terms of film watching, no. I'm as casual of a fan as it gets, except usually spend at least a half hour to an hour a day watching your MMA contents on the interwebs. So a novice fan that knows game theory and that likes to see game theory. And today you're going to be seeing ownership really concentrate on a couple of players. Kevin Holland is going to be picking up an insane amount of ownership to the point where it doesn't make sense, in my opinion, to be rostering Kevin Holland today if you have a goal of trying to win a large field GBP. If your goal, with one or two lineups, right? Obviously, if you're playing 150s, you're going to be getting a lot of him. But, and this is a big old booty, if your goal today is to look at Kevin Holland and say, okay, I'm going to be playing in the contest that's got six figures to first, and I'm playing one lineup, yeah, Kevin Holland, not the guy you want to be going to. Projects out great. Second highest projected player for me right now. Number 1 point per dollar play because of his price tag not being one of the biggest favorites. Minus 175 as of a couple of minutes ago. Consensus spot for him. So, yeah, right now, I want the main event fight. I would be leaning to Brunson. If you're talking game theory, I don't care who you think wins in the outright betting market. That's a totally different thing. That doesn't matter about the percentage of people playing this. But right now, you're probably going to need somebody in that main event fight. We lose the co-main event, right? So the undercard. So you get 56% ownership right now on Holland and 34% on Brunson. It's just, to me, it's starting to become more of a no-brainer. That especially with a lot of these other cards falling off up top, Montel Jackson is going to be soaking up a ton of ownership. I'd rather bet on the minus 800 favorite that's projecting out for 90 points than the minus 175 favorite projecting out for 90 points, right? You want to play both of them, I guess that's fine. You can get different elsewhere and try and shoot for some underdogs where some of them are now off the slate, right? You're also going to be having Ty, right? Ty at this point. Tuvesa is somebody else who now just steps into a minus 500 favorite, now projecting out for close to 90 points. Similar ownership to Holland. Give me that person instead, right? Give me those people instead. So Holland to me looks like now at this high ownership number, just a bad play. A bad play if you're trying to win a large field. If you're playing in a contest where there's 200 people in it, 300, 500 people, those contests that I personally like a lot, and we can start to build some lineups around this right now. I appreciate everybody tuning in right now, wherever you're tuning in from these days. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitch, if you're in the streets, over on wherever, you can hop into the comment section right now on Periscope, on YouTube. We can have a nice little conversation around this, but let's pull up the optimizer and we can talk through some of this stuff because, yeah, this is a leverage spot that the people that are watching this are going to be able to take advantage if you have the cojones to not play Kevin Holland today, and I wouldn't. There's some other spots on the slate that stand out as well. in terms of getting some type of like Santos at the bottom doesn't feel like a good play by any means, but if you're trying to get some sort of salary relief in that range, especially if you want to go up and pay for two guys up top and still play the Brunsons of the world as somewhat of one of those salary reliefs, I think that's okay. But let's start to do some things. We don't have to do anything with groups in terms of the optimizer, right? There's nothing to be grouping together here unless you're trying to group together some of those 5-round fights, which is not something I really want to be doing. So let's start to see like what the natural, first, what I want to do is not put in randomness, right? So I'm not going to put on randomness anything. You can restrict in the optimizer, you can restrict your opponent fighters. So if we don't want anybody fighting each other, which is probably a good idea. So we can go max total ownership. So all I want to do right now is go put no like advanced rules in, right? Let's just give me 150 lineups and we'll title this build basic. We'll put no randomness on. We'll only keep it to one unique and we'll just run it. This is just me trying to see what the optimizer is going to do. And my guess is you're going to be getting a lot of those 50% owned guys. The Scotsman says, by the way, Gregor Gillespie and Brad Riddell is off. Yep. All understood. All know that. All the projections have been updated for that. The ownership projections have been updated for those guys' fight being called off like, an hour ago? Yep. Thank you for the heads up. Already got that information down packed. Appreciate it though, my man. So let's let these lineups build in the background right now. So we're going to crank out 150 lineups, and this is the whole thing. This thing's titled the lineup building side of it. I'm happy to answer literally any single question that comes into the chat as we go through this, but there's a lot of leverage on this slate right now. And it's only going to be getting better with these fights getting off the slate. Maybe you'll get 1 or 2% ownership on some of those guys that won't be fighting tonight, and it'll stay there. You have to have Huevos to not play Holland tonight. Not really, not in my opinion. Manfred really likes Gregor. Sucks the fight got canceled. Yeah, it did. So you have to have Huevos to not play Holland tonight. I don't think that's the case at all. If you're talking DFS, if you want to bet, if you're in the betting streets, I'm not talking to the betting streets right now. You want to go and bet on whichever side of this you want to bet on, that's fine. I really don't have a stance on that. But if you're talking DFS, if you're talking fantasy where there's game theory involved, and if you're playing Holland tonight thinking that is a good play, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, a guy who's going to be pushing 60% ownership today, where there's 2 other much bigger favorites with similar ownership and similar projection, but that projection's more sturdy, right? It's more sturdy if they're projecting out as 800 or minus 800 favorites and minus 500 favorites. That would be Jackson, and that would be Ty Tavesa, right? So that's where ready to tie for first with 500 people tonight. There you go. Yeah, I mean, what's up, Geriatrics? How you doing? Yeah, so this is the types of lineups that if you don't put anything in, right? So if you don't put anything in, the optimizer is going to start to pop out some things that are going to look pretty straightforward for you, right? It's going to give you these massive point total guys that are pretty decent sized favorites. And these 2 fellas right here in Montel, right? And in Ty. It's going to give you Kevin Holland, and it's going to try and fill in the rest. Santos right now is grading out as one of the better value plays that I'm currently seeing outside of Derek Brunson, below $8,000. I think that Santos is the best option down there. He'll probably see some similar ownership as Lopez. Lopez grades out here as well. So if you don't want to restrict the salary, right? If you don't want to say only spend $49,000, right? Your ways of getting different tonight are fading massively owned players. Or you can try and take Harry Hunsucker and hope that in his debut out of nowhere on like 3 days notice that this guy can do something, right? Not the greatest of options down there. Like we're already limited naturally to no real options. Like the 2-6K options, I don't expect to really get any. So let's see, before we take anything into account, right? Rules and all that stuff, before we start to take all that stuff into account, and rules mainly meaning not like, stacking rules or anything like that. What I'm talking about from a rule standpoint is basically talking about your randomness levels that I want to be using today per fighter even. So this is what you're going to get. If you don't set anything, and this is why the ownership's coming in high on these fellas. If you don't set anything, this is based on my personal projections, ownership as well. If you don't set any rules around ownership, if you don't set any rules around the randomness, bad things that you should be using those things, right? Ownership and randomness, range of outcomes, understanding that whatever a player's projection is not what is going to happen exactly every single time, of course, right? It's a median projection. So this is what you'll get. And this number right here is 84% Kevin Hovland. Why people are getting Holland, I keep saying Hovland, shout out golf, Victor. So Kevin Holland, there's a reason why he's coming with a lot of ownership. Cheap, relatively cheap, fantastic upside. Amazing projection. My number 1 value play on the slate. And on this slate, in my single entry 3-max stuff, I'm not going to be getting to him. Maybe one of my 3-max lineups. So let's now build out these lineups where we actually start to take into account ownership. We actually start to take into account randomness. Those types of things. I think the heavyweight guys like Ty tend to get overhyped. Yeah, but it's about this specific fight. He's fighting a replacement level fighter. I would agree with you if this was 3 days ago, right? And now he has like Harry Hunsucker, if that's even how you pronounce his name. I'm saying it how it looks. Now he has a guy coming in on a replacement level fight on 3 days' notice. I think we can rely on that minus 500. So now let's look into some builds where we can actually put some rules in. Somebody says, I think Brunson wins. Yeah, I don't think either way. I don't have a stance on it, right? I don't have a stance on Brunson versus Holland. My stance is in the game theory side of it. When one guy is 56% owned and another guy is 34% owned, and I'm lacking value, right? So Brunson cheaper. I'm lacking value on this slate, and I have more secure favorites on this slate, in my opinion, based on the odds. That's where I'll lean to a little bit more. So now let's do basic number 2. We'll name this one. Let's get to, I mean, we really don't have to change uniques too much when there's only 20 fighters on a slate, right? So we don't have to change uniques too much. Let's put 37% randomness right now. So total lineup ownership. This is going to be tough, right? This is going to be tough if we're looking at total lineup ownership. Like, look at some of these high owned lineups right now. So if we go back to that original lineup we just looked at, 248% ownership right now, right? 248% ownership, 227%. So like this is going to be the chalk, right? This is going to be the chalk lineup. If you play this lineup tonight, you might as well not show up. You might as well not show up if you're going to play this lineup. I don't know what you're doing, right? Yo, what is that shirt? LOL. This is a lovely shirt. It's pink. It's white. It's we'll get the close up on me right now so you can get a nice little sneak peek at this. It's pink. It's white. It's got some, I think they're blue. I think they're navy blue, but they look black. Either way, yeah, we're trying to get more shirts that, cause a reaction. My man Jason Smitty says looks like an ugly carpet or something. My man Jason Smitty probably in a tight gray t-shirt made from Gildan right now at home. You hate to see it. So yeah, if you're going to be playing this lineup right here, it's going to be brutal. It's going to be a brutal night for you. I don't even care if this lineup wins first place. I still would be saying you shouldn't be playing it, game theory wise, right? More times than not. When you have those top 1% outcomes, top 0.1% outcomes, the last thing you want to be doing is splitting it with 1,000 people. So the easy way to do that is to get to the guy who's going to be coming in close to half as owned as this fella right here. So now let's start to look at some average ownership, right? So then this is the whole lineup building process for MMA. Ownership is just going to be naturally higher with less fighters on this card now. So if we just start to go down to like some average ownership spots, you'll start to see like 200% is where we get a lot of the average ownership. That's going to cut off a lot of lineups though because of how much ownership there is tonight. So this lineup being highly owned is at 248. It's the highest projected. It's going to be the chalkiest lineup tonight. I mean, this one will probably also be pretty chalky right here. 252% projected ownership. You're just flopping out one fella here and there, right? One fighter here and there. So I think the move to do would be to set up lineups that can get all of these 200 and maybe setting it at 235 because 248 will be too high. I think we can set it at 235 and see if that's enough ownership. So let's do a new build right now. Let's set the total max ownership to 235. We can keep uniques on one. I'm fine with that with only 20 potential fighters. 150 lineups. Restrict the opponent fighter. I'm good with that. And let's set this bad boy to, let's go 32% randomness. Yo, Sal, what's up, bro? You hit those weights today. Somebody says MMG talent. Did I hit the weights today? No, I did not. I mean, body weights like push-ups, pull-ups. That's about it that I've done today outside of going on a couple miles of walking so far. But it's the weather's getting nicer where I'm at. Apparently for like the remainder of time now, the rest of the year, we're looking at some nice weather. So hopefully tomorrow I can start getting back outside and running because I'm just tired of treadmills. I ain't doing it. Alrighty, so now let's look at this. So we have our first, this was the first run, right? This was the first run. This was the exposure we were getting. A lot of the obvious names, right? A lot of the potentially obvious value here. We were only getting ownership levels on Brunson of 16%. Now I want to see as we work through this process, if we restrict ownership, does Brunson come up from 16%? One, do we have to artificially boost his projection to do that? Now let's start to see what some of these top lineups look like. I mean, this one's only getting projected 88% ownership, and it's not projecting out that nice. This is not a lineup that I want to be holding. So 235 might be, let's see what the ownership starts to come in on. So now we're getting a bunch of punt plays, right? So this is the issue if you start to constrict it too much. So let's go back and let's constrict the ownership to, I think we can constrict it to 240. A lot of these are coming in like under 100. That doesn't make any sense. All right, so these up here are on 200%. These ones are at 96%. All right, so let's go back to constricting ownership to, let's put a total lineup ownership of, so max is 100%. So let's put 90%. And let's go there. I'm curious if we were to go to 245, if that would change. So it'll automatically go back to that. Let's go to 95. And let's try to constrict that today. You still have Gillep's, you still have Gregor in your fight pool. That's why it's so low. Is he in the pool? He's projected for 0 points. So I see what you're saying. That's why the ownership's so low. Yeah, I mean, he's projected for 0 points. The ownership's at 4% on him. He shouldn't be getting into any lineup. So let's see if he got into some of these builds, maybe just out of necessity. Alrighty. So yeah, so Gregor's in there at 39. So he must be getting into his average ownership. So yeah, let's take these. There you go. Good catch. So we'll take out them, and now let's rerun it. So that should do it. That makes sense because I only had him at, 4% ownership. I expect a decent amount of lineups to still hold him. And now let's go to 245. Oh, we got to do this. Alrighty. All right, so let's let that build. Oh, word, I heard that it's freezing over here. How many days a week you usually hit those weights, says MMG Talent. Hit those weights, my man. Yeah, I don't usually use weights all that much, I guess. I use a lot of body weight. Push up, pull up, sit up, plank, mountain climbers, run outside, push some shit, squat. If I go to the gym to lift, I just don't like going to the gym and lifting is so stationary. I'm not like big on it. I used to be when I was in college, but now it's like you don't get much of a workout. You might like break a sweat for a little while, but like the actual like movement, unless you're doing like a lot of like flex work, your body's just getting so fucking tight. All you're doing is like tightening up your muscles. And like some people might be saying, oh, you just stretch them out. Ain't nobody stretching them out, right? Ain't nobody spending the proper amount of time stretching them out. So I do like lifting, but it's not the best use of my time if I'm going to exercise, I would say. MMG Talent says, how much do you bench? About 25 pounds I bench. We put the small little rings. We put a couple of donuts. We get the light bar, and then we put about 6 donuts on each side. You ever smack a tire with a hammer? I have, yes, I have. Alrighty, so we can go back and look at some of these lineups now that we have some fellas out of the player pool. So let's go back to the players right here. All right, we're good. We're Gucci. Let's go back to some builds. Let's create a new build here. So restrict opponents against each other. Let's go randomness. Let's go 30%. Let's just type in a certain amount of lineups. Try changing your exposure setting and or the number of lineups. What is happening here? What is the exposure setting? All right, so exposure max 100%. Let's do this. What time are you doing a b-ball stream today? I'm doing a b-ball stream at probably 5 or 5:30. I got to figure out like what I want to do. I got to figure out what I want to do from a time standpoint, like what I want to do with the rest of my day. I don't know what my man's saying in another language up in here. All right, so let's let this build out now. Let's let that bad boy build. Oh. So we got in here. We got geriatrics. So what is your guys' stance right on? Yeah. So what is your guys' stance tonight on? Let's see. On the spot to fade. You can't be playing the 55+% on guys or 50+% on guys today. Like the clear and obvious is get rid of Holland, in my opinion. Holland. Roman looks good. Yes. Roman looks good. Gregor moves right to Ty even more to Vesa. Yeah, what's going on, Nick? Yeah, that's the case, and that's deservingly so. I mean, it's a minus 500 favorite that's projecting out for similar points as a minus 175 favorite. Where like the opposite sides, and here's the other thing: it's also leveraged not off of. You also have to take into account. Somebody says fade Griffin today. Yeah, I mean Griffin not really picking up that much ownership compared to other people around him. I have Grant Dawson for more ownership. I have similar ownership for even Macy, so I'm fine to get the Griffin. Not really either way. Not really a strong stance there. Let me make sure my player pool's all good here. Let's take out Red Riddle. And let's take out Gregor. There we go. Let's let that rebuild now. All right, cool. So if we don't put any rules in and things like that, we start to get double Brunson and Holland. We can't do that. So let's put the rule on to not get these fellas together. So we'll put the rule in the optimizer, check that bad boy off, not get those fellas together. That should give us better lineups now. I got Marion for the upside, fading Santos for the dog. There you go. All these top price favorites look solid to me. It's hard to choose a fade up there. Yeah, exactly. I mean, either you play tonight. Like if you really can't stomach fading one of these players, just don't play tonight. Like if you're actually trying to win money, because if you play all of them, your best odds are going to be to split 1,000 ways a winning prize tonight. Like people who play this type of lineup tonight are going to split 1,000 ways. You spend all the money, the highest owned players, you're just screwed. You're starting out just absolutely screwed. Where does UFC rank in your favorite sports to actually watch? To actually watch UFC, I mean, if we're taking into account the whole entire situation of me having to stay up until 1 fucking a.m. in the morning every single time and get up at 5 a.m. the next morning to do work, that makes it a little bit more brutal from the viewer experience, right? But to actually watch, like in the moment, in a vacuum, watching them, I would say it's like 1A. If I have something on the game, right? Like I'm actually betting, it's probably like 1A, 1B with the NBA for me, and then the NFL's third. Like there's just stakes. The stakes are so much different in the UFC, right? Not only is the rankings in divisions a lot smaller, right? You're looking at like, for the most part, looking at like 10 guys on the rankings. Obviously, you can go down more than that, but it's every single fight matters. Like you're looking at guys that only fight twice a year in the UFC. Maybe you only see them one time a year, right? John Jones, we haven't seen in over a year at this point. You see them fight that little in the UFC right now. So every time you see somebody, it's stakes. It's like, oh shit, like this is going to be massive in terms of what is the next storyline. And it's always funny because it's always like the next storyline as we're like watching a fight, right? Like for Izzy's fight, for Adesanya's, it's like the next storyline is John Jones, right? And in John Jones is like automatically the next storyline. But like as the fight was going on with Conor in Poirier, it's like the next storyline is like who's going to surprise to make Khabib like not retire, right? All this type of stuff. So the UFC is just so good at that. So from like an entertainment standpoint, yeah, the way that they hype up fights in their events, I mean, that's what you have to do. You have to be a fight promoter. The way that they do that for every single event, even in a fight like Holland versus Brunson, like the way that they're able to promote these types of not pay-per-view type fights, it's insane. You don't get that out of NBA. You sometimes get it out of NFL, right? If there's big matchups in a week. But yeah. I can see the fight being very slow, them just squaring up most of the fight and no takedowns. Kyle Davis says, is Adrian Yanez the new lock right now? The new lock, I would say no, but kind of in like that next tier. I want to see what the ownership looks like because I have right now Yanez I have Adrian for 45% ownership, to Tai Tavares' 52%, to Holland's 56%. So it's not like a sneaky type of a play. Like the guys who are not going to pick up as much ownership now, and rightfully so based on how like they score on average compared to these other guys, like Max Griffin, right? I think that Grant Dawson, if you're looking, a lot of people are going to go to Santos as the underdog upset today, just out of pure necessity. So Grant Dawson's naturally not going to be as high owned as he should be because people aren't going to take two guys from that fight, right? So now let's start to factor in some more of this randomness because you're just going to get so much of these top guys right here, right? So this is what you're getting a lot of tonight. Like this is only a 20 max lineup, but let's start to take into account more randomness now. And I even want to kind of start to bump Brunson up and lower some stuff that we're getting with Holland. So I think that's how I'm going to approach the slate right now. So let's put 37% randomness on, and let's just build another one out. So I think I'm going to start to artificially bump Brunson's, shout out to Shambo, Brunson's projection up to just limit what I'm getting right now of Holland because I'm still getting 50% Holland. I'm getting 45% Brunson. So now this is kind of like 50-50 is what I'm getting on this, but I'd rather get leverage over the field. I'll have leverage on Brunson at this point at 45%. I'll be below the field on Holland. I assume so. Giannis right now I'm below the field on. Jackson I'm below the field on just because of price at this point. Interesting. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get to three of those guys unless, I mean, you're going to play the exact same lineup as everybody else at that point. So now let's see what some of these top projected lineups look like when we start to use some randomness. So this one's interesting because it's not spending all of your money. It's leaving $400 on the table, so even playing some of these studs can still get you different. So that's an interesting one. Honestly, for me, I think that Tai is the fade, not because I think he's going to lose, but because the heavyweight fights can be lower scoring sometimes if there's not an early finish. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that one finishes within the first two rounds, though. I think that one finishes in the first or second round. Because based on like those Vegas odds of it, which you can't even really find anywhere to bet, but the implied odds on it, it's heavily favorited to go less than 1.5 here, or 1.5 or less. Are there any fights you would consider stacking maybe the main event? No. As of right now, I'm not stacking any of these fights. No, I am not. I mean, if you can see like the Brunson fight going 5 rounds, like I don't know if that Brunson fight goes 5 rounds. I don't know if Holland's getting you there. Like you kind of want that quicker finish, right? Unless he comes out of nowhere with like a striking clinic. Maybe he can get some sort of takedowns going, but like Brunson's going to be trying to come in for some takedowns. So if it goes longer, it's good for him, right? You secure a couple more takedowns. But it's ground and pound. I don't think it's going to be much of a thing. So yeah, I am not going to be stacking any fights today. Rodgers is going to be fire tonight, my dude. He's throwing a people's elbow out there tonight. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is out there. He's going to be one of the top 1 plays for sure for me. How do you feel about Aaron Rodgers on this UFC card? Yeah, so Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he's kind of like already locked in as my favorite. Rodgers looks like the top play tonight in my opinion. So I like the way that we're getting some salary relief here, right? Like we're getting some decently high projected lineups that are leaving a decent amount of salary on the table. So let's actually do this too. Even in an effort to get even more different, let's go to 49,900 and just automatically take out any lineups that are going to spend all of the money tonight. And now let's build out 150. So let's take out any of those lineups that are going to spend the total amount of money because I don't want any of those. Those are automatically going to be duped. Those lineups that are spending all the money. And maybe we can even go down a little bit more than that. So let's see what we start to get from player usage. I think I'm going to have to artificially bump up Brunson. I'm going to have to artificially make Brunson like more of a favorite, or he's an underdog, but less of an underdog. So I might have to come up in here and bump up Brunson's projection on my end right now. So let's see what happens if we take Brunson to, let's call it 80 points. That's probably going to be too high if I had to guess, but let's just see what happens if we do that. So this is the lineup building show if you're tuning in right now on YouTube or wherever. Appreciate you. We'll talk about some of the prize pick stuff momentarily. But I think that this is important. Look, Manpreet did the video already earlier. He crushed it on this channel. The breaking down the film, breaking down some of the stuff that he sees when he's looking at that. That's a massive piece of what you need. But there's a totally different piece of game theory if you're playing DFS. A totally different side of game theory that's going to matter in a major way, right? You can't be playing lineups that everybody's owning. You're going to lose every single time. So let's see where we got Brunson. So now we're getting more Brunson, right? Now we're getting like a 50-50 split on these guys. This is starting to become more appealing. I want to be more aggressive than that. Let's get even more aggressive than that. Let's take Brunson now to, let's call it 83.5 points and see what happens. 83.5 might make him our highest owned guy, which I'm fine with. I got to take a stance somewhere, right? If Brunson pulls off the win, he should get 100 plus points with strikes, takedowns, and the CT. Yes, I agree. Especially with the takedowns, right? Like that's what we're aiming for there. So now Brunson's our highest owned. So this is starting to look a little bit better here, right? We have 55% Brunson. That's going to make us different. All of these guys are picking up ownership, though. You can even include Santos into that. So other types of leverage plays that I'm seeing on this slate right now, I would say Buys is a pretty decent leverage play, right? Him and his wife, right? They're fighting today. Dawson to an extent. So like not seeing Grant Dawson up here as much is not a concern, but it's because of this right here. It's because of Santos, right? Santos seems to be the popular underdog, if you will, today because we just need to find money somewhere. If you want to pay up for 2 guys today, you need to find money somewhere. So it seems like Santos is being identified as that guy that can get it done now that the Gregor fight is off the card. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough down here because I don't really want to play Santos because I want to get different. But then you're kind of forced into playing like Song Kanan, right? You're almost forced into doing that. I don't want to play Bruno Silva tonight. I have no real interest in that. Yeah, the difference makers, I would say, ownership wise, you're going to be becoming like if a Trevion Gills can do anything tonight or Trevin Gills can do anything tonight. If a Lopez can do things tonight, that's where I think a lot gets different. So I would say that the biggest decision points right now on this slate are to fade Holland or get below the field and just project this as if you think Brunson is the favorite. Not because you actually think he's going to win, but because based on percentages, you should not be playing Holland at this point based on the amount that he's actually going to pay off for you, in my opinion. Co-main event is now Griffin versus Kanan Song. There we go. So now we have a even more appealing options there. Does that automatically turn down into the 5 rounds? What's your thoughts on Marion? Right next to Santos, so I can see she's grabbing sub 10%. She's not grabbing sub 10%. I have her at 20% projected ownership right now. So like like Santos, I have it like 28%. Lopez, I have it 26%. Right? Yeah, it's not. I'd rather go up to Song Kanong now in a co-main event fight. So the leverage plays that I see as the best leverage plays are Derek Brunson today, Honestly, this sounds weird, even though he's going to pick up ownership. Grant Dawson is a nice leverage play just because Santos is going to be the highest owned lower end option. And then now that it's a 5-round fight, I think that whoever is the winner between Song Kanong and Max Griffin not automatically gets themselves in because neither of them are the highest scorers, but that's going to be just overall that fight's going to be low owned. Like that might be the lowest combined total ownership fight tonight. If I had to guess, like Max Griffin versus Song Kanong, that might change now. 5 rounds is only for the title fights. Correct. Championship, right? Championship rounds. Bruno's very live dog in that fight. Buy slows down drastically as the fight goes on. Maybe not a high score, though. Yeah, that's the issue, right? I would say that's the biggest issue there. That's the reason why I'm not going to be getting much. Like if you're just, even if you're just talking about like Bruno Silva's like fastest wins, it's brutal for the fantasy scoring upside. Holland 2nd round KO. Yeah, it could happen. It could happen. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing about talking about like Holland and like people wanting him to win, thinking he's going to win. None of that shit matters to me. If he gets a 2nd round KO, that just makes the slate not worth playing, in my opinion. It just makes the slate not worth playing. Unless you think that Ty gets upset from a guy who had like 2 days notice. Unless you think that Montel Jackson is going to somehow lose today. Maybe. I highly doubt that. This is like a stepping stone fight, if you will. But yeah, so if Holland wins, this is how I view the slate. If you go into it thinking that Holland's winning, is going to win the slate, the only way you're going to win first place today, more than likely, is if you just split a ton of ways, unless a bunch of random ass underdogs start to win, like a Santos and a Song Kanong both win, right? That's what I'm just seeing here. Unless you think Brunson and Holland are in the winning fight, which for Holland's case, he's going to have to finish it early to be in the winning fight, which then hurts Brunson, right? So game theory wise, this was the lineup builder. We can talk about some prize pick stuff. We can pull that up right now. But that's the end of the day. Like if Kevin Holland wins, the entire slate is pointless of playing. The first place prize is going to be split 1,000 ways, and then all the other prizes after that get split, and it's just kind of pointless. So with that in mind, the only way to actually make some reasonable money tonight, in my opinion, is to not play Kevin Holland. And I like him. If I actually had to tell you who I think wins this fight, it's Kevin Holland. If I actually had to tell you who I think wins you more money playing them tonight when the outcomes are different, it's Brunson. So with that all said, let's look at some prize pick stuff right now. So I don't even know how many people care that I don't even know if anybody's even watching this. I like started to use Restream, so it doesn't really show you who's tuning in from where. So let's see. We got some people watching. So these fights are going to be starting tonight at 7:30 is when the slate locks. So you can check out, if you want to check out prize picks, it's a lot of fun. I have projections, so we can like talk through some of these things right now. They have most of the fighters on here. So Holland is an interesting one. It's probably a no bet for me, like over under 95 fantasy points. I currently have Holland at 92, so this is probably a no bet for me because that first round finish can obviously blow that out of the water. Gregor is now off the fight. If I reload this, I'm sure that will go away. But it's interesting. Let's pull up the UFC. MMA. So Gregor should now be off. There we go. A lot of these fighters have appropriate projections right now. It's scoring a little bit different. Fella in the house. What's going on, William? How you doing? Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with this fight. I would say that Montel Jackson might be quick himself. Might be my favorite option in terms of an over-under. And then I would say also that Grant Dawson would probably be pretty close to being right after that. It's either going to be coming down between Grant Dawson and probably a Ty. But Ty's projection is so high. Like you have to get that early finish there. I mean, if this thing goes into a couple of rounds, it's just over. There's going to be such low volume at that point. It's going to slow down. Yeah. Griffin's okay. Still, co-main event, not really changing much there. So it's going to be Jackson over for me. And if anything, I probably lean the Kevin Holland under. Like 95 points, you need that first round probably knockout. Maybe second round knockout. So I probably lean the under there. But I'll see. I'm going to keep waiting on some of this stuff to see if some of these lines move just by 1 point one way or the other, so it feels a little bit better. Can you take the Macy under? The Macy under 81 points. Let's pull that up on my end. It's like too close. So factoring in the scoring. So the scoring is different on Prize Picks. If you guys want to check out Prize Picks, it's linked down below. We have projections that can help you out with it. We have the optimizer that we were just using if you want to check that out. But it's linked down below. If you want to use the code SAL, they'll give you a free money bonus up to $100. But if you want to just look at the scoring, is going to be a little bit different, right? So like it's a lot different from what the new DraftKings scoring is. You still get the big upside though for early finishes, right? And it doesn't have to come within the first 10 seconds, although that's the nice thing. So obviously the earlier that this thing is going to finish, the better. So the biggest difference between what's going to happen tonight for like the Holland fight on Prize Picks is, does Holland get the KO in the first or second round? If this thing starts to get into the third or fourth round, that's where Holland is probably, I mean, gas tank wise, he's fine. He's fine in my opinion. He's completely fine. But that's where that 95 point total starts to become a lot more difficult because you're just getting kind of them round points. You can get the knockout points of 12 points, right? And that's where Holland will come from. But it's a totally different story of a massive point difference is what we're talking about here, right? If Holland gets it done in the third round compared to obviously the second, like you're just automatically winning that under prop. So you're trying to fade a first round knockout, which I think we can, especially if Brunson tries to, if he gets any type of a takedown in the first round, Brunson, which is obviously more difficult to do it in that first round, but if he just slows it down at all. So yeah, I think that's where I would go. If you want to take Ty's an interesting case study because like the first round knockout is worth like automatically like 120 points. So like if you think Ty can knock out his opponent who just showed up, and I think this is probably going to happen in less than 2 rounds, that's when this starts to become very appealing as well. But everything has to go right for you here, right? Everything has to go right. He has to get it done pretty quick. So you're kind of betting against the field there. So yeah, I would take the over on Montel Jackson. I think that Jackson gets it done over in less than 1.5 rounds, which automatically will get him this 113 as long as he gets it done in a round, right? Even if he gets it done in the second round, it's automatically like 100 points plus whatever he did in the first round. So hopefully he just gets any type of significant strikes and volume to go where it's more likely earlier on in the fight. So I'll take Jackson, quick himself on the over, and I'll take Holland, the trailblazer, on the under there. Love you and your boy Bird. Gumba. What's going on, William? How you doing? Gumba. He says, love you and your boy Bird. Oh, your boy Bird. So I think that's how I'm going to play it. This is not going to be my final lineup crunch right here. I'm going to try to factor in some ownership as well. But I think that this is the way that I'll probably approach the slate. I think I'm going to approach the slate knowing that Holland is the favorite. I do like Holland to actually win that fight if I had to pick somebody. But taking into account the math on it, if I want to play the slate, I can't play Holland. If I play Holland, I know for a fact that everybody's going to be tying everywhere. So that's all I really wanted to do. I wanted to come on for, half hour, 40 minutes, answer any questions. If you have any other questions on projections, ownership, let me know. We can help you out with those. This optimizer that you're seeing, we have projections, rankings, ownerships, player pools, top plays, all that type of stuff is linked down below on Patreon if you want to check it out. You can. MMA is included in the all sports package if you have any questions on that. But otherwise, yeah, hopefully this was helpful to somebody. Hopefully somebody building lineups either now or this is going to be 5 hours until the fight starts. So I'm sure a lot of people will see this afterwards. Hopefully you get a different level of value out of this content from a DFS standpoint. It's always fine to be breaking it down analysis-wise. I think that Manpreet does that better than anybody that I've found. That's why he's on this channel. That's always something that's important, right? Because styles make fights. You hear it all the time. Styles are going to make fights, and you see these guys fight maybe twice a year. I mean, Holland fucking went, 5-0 last year? But you see these guys fight like once a year. So the issue with that is they change their styles. A lot changes with them. You don't know what they're going to be doing. Conor McGregor becomes a motherfucking boxer in his last 2 fights, right? So with the boxing stance, right, the unorthodox not there as much. So that's why it's important to understand that film study side of it. It's the most important part. But if you're just trying to talk about the game itself and understanding it. But if you're trying to talk about the game theory side of it, you need to understand this type of stuff. So hopefully this content was different than other stuff you've been watching out there. I'm not going to be able to do this every single weekend, but maybe next week for 260 we'll be able to do that. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Any other questions, happy to answer them now. Otherwise, I'm going to be bouncing. If you're tuning in later on, I encourage you to watch the whole video. We went through some of the lineup building in this. What do you think about Bruno today? I'm not really there. If Bruno can get it done, it's more of a question of like, what is the upside in the scoring there compared to players around him? Like, I'd rather go to Song. So the obvious options around him are Brunson or Santos, and then you're kind of just screwed on options. But I'd even rather go to Lopez and Song Kanong. I would rank that lower range right now below $8,000. I would rank it as Brunson, Santos, Lopez, and Kanong. Those are the 4 that I would go to before touching Bruno. And then I might even go to like Marion at 7,500 before Bruno. But yeah, go back, check it out. We built some lineups using the optimizer. If you want to check out this optimizer, you can use it down below. But yeah, we built some lineups using the optimizer, talked about some leverage spots, why it's important to leverage, why it doesn't really matter what the hell your opinions are on these fights at the end of the day, because it all comes down to what the game theory side of it is. Otherwise I'll keep sounding like a broken record. Okie dokie, thanks bro. No problem, man. Alrighty, so peace out everybody. I'll be live at 5. I said 5:30 earlier. I'll probably come back on live around 5-ish. Let's call it 5 p.m. East Coast time, 5:30 p.m. East Coast time to talk about the 4-game NBA slate tonight. So not much to totally break down there, but we can still talk about it live. So best of luck. Enjoy the NCAA that's going on as well right now. Enjoy these fights as well. I'll probably be staying up for the Holland and Brunson fight. I say probably because normally I only stay up for massive fights, but I really do like Holland. So this fight's appealing to me. You have to fucking stay up till 1 in the morning for this bullshit. Lopez might be sneaky since people are hyping up Giannis for a little sprinkle. Yeah, no, I like Lopez. I like Lopez a lot. I have him at, he's not going to be as sneaky, but 26% projected ownership. I like him a good amount right now. I seem to be getting him in a lot of my lineups. I also like, on the opposite side of the Santos, like I like both sides of Santos versus Grant Dawson. Like Dawson is a nice leverage off of his chalky underdog relative to them. Hey Sal, best play at captain and regular play for Super Draft, asks John Hammer tonight. The best play at captain. So I don't have any stances on captain versus not captain. If you want to play over on Super Draft where ownership is not as much of an issue compared to just getting those contests filled, Holland and Brunson look like the top 2 plays. I honestly don't mind if you play both of them on Super Draft because of their multipliers. Like Brunson has a 1.45x multiplier. That's a mistake. But it's going to be a lot of the same guys, right? It's going to be a lot of your Jacksons, your Ties, your Adrian Yanez. Like it's going to be a lot of the same guys over there in Super Draft. So I would take somebody in that title fight, or somebody in that main event fight, not title fight, somebody in that main event fight. I think that Grant Dawson looks appealing. Macy will look more appealing on Super Draft at that multiplier as well. So that's where I'm at right now. Macy's multiplier 1.2x makes him look a little bit more appealing than some of these 1x fighters, or like Shanae Buys at 1.1x, right? Max Griffin at 1.2. So thank you for tuning in. Yep, you can check all that out. Super Draft's also a pretty cool place to play if you want to get $25 free over there. You'd use the code SAL if you deposit $25 or more. So yeah, Lopez plus Ty or Giannis versus Marion. I'll take Lopez plus Ty. That's kind of an easy one for me. I'll take Lopez plus Ty. I mean, at this point, Ty's a minus 500 favorite in a lot of spots. Giannis is a minus 225 favorite. And then if you just want to look on the total opposite side of that, I think that the ceiling of what Lopez can produce from a scoring standpoint is factoring in the price a lot higher of what Marion could produce. Like you're going to be going to a decision a lot more in some of those female fights. Lopez can, even if he goes to a decision, put up a little bit more in terms of the scoring side of it. So give me Lopez. And you get the cheaper price on Lopez, which is surprising to me. It's only a $100 difference, but I'd say that was surprising to me when I first saw it. Peace out, gang. Best of luck. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me in the Discord, and we can chat there. My man Chase says, yo, Sal, what's up, fellow? What are we doing on Prize Picks for UFC tonight? I just got here. My bad. No problem, man. So I'll quickly highlight the Prize Picks stuff on UFC. There's a link in the description below if you want to get in on this. I'm actually leaning the under on Holland. If you think Holland wins tonight and you really like Holland to win tonight, then don't make this side of it, right? Don't take this side of it. But Holland's going to have to get a first-round knockout or a second-round knockout for this to probably pay off for you, for this 95 or more to pay off. So I'll just leverage on him winning in the 3rd or 4th round. And I'll give some credit to Brunson there to not get knocked out in the 1st or 2nd round. So I'm taking the under on Holland. A lot of these other fights look very close. Like Max Griffin, leaning the over looks somewhat appealing, but I'm not getting there. Same thing can be said for Grant Dawson. I don't want anything of the Macy fight. I don't want really much of the Ty fight unless you think it's a first-round knockout. Then I would take Ty, which it more than likely can be. Montel Jackson is probably my favorite option with the over here at 113 points. If you get that knockout within the first 2 rounds, which I am currently expecting, I think that's where you're going to have the upside. So Montel Jackson on the over, and I'll take Kevin Holland on the under tonight. So hopefully that helps you chase. Anybody else that has any interest on tailing that one, or you can even add 3 or 4 options to this event, this card, this bet, so you can check that out. All linked down below. Use that code SAL. You get a nice little free money bonus up to $100. You put 20 in, they'll give you 20. You put 50 in, they'll give you 50 upon your first deposit. So cool. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll be back later on with some NBA. Hopefully y'all having a good motherfucking day today. We had somebody up in this stream earlier saying that this lovely shirt right here. Are you kidding me? This lovely shirt right here. Somebody said it looks like an old carpet. Boy, you ain't no style if it hit you right in the face. Check this shit out. This ain't no old carpet. See motherfucking chesties right there. Peace out, Chase. See you guys.